Good morning. My name is VBTouray, and I am here to celebrate or to help celebrate and to give this tribute to Miss Dianna Johnson. Miss Dianna Johnson, before I even get started, I just want to say thank you for being who you are and all that you've given to our community. Now, again, my name is VBTouray. I am an author and I am a writer and I am a poet, among other things. But I got a call from a good girlfriend a week or so ago, and she told me that you were worthy of a tribute. And she asked me if I had anything that I could do for you, to show you how much your community appreciates you. And I thought the more she told me about you, the more I fell in love with you, even though I don't know you at all. I know you by the spirit. And I thought, you know what, Shar, it would be a great thing, I think, for me to do this in Idlewild. I am in Idlewild, Michigan, which has been known as the Black Eden, especially back in the day, the Black Eden of the Midwest. If you don't already know that, but you probably already know that. But I had planned to come to Idlewild, and I thought it would be great to be in this setting to do this tribute because she also told me that you were a lover of the garden and that you loved the garden. And I thought, oh, I can find a great spot for that because, of course, Idlewild is all nature. So I wanted to share with you something that I wrote that I thought is perfect, to for a tribute for someone of your stature. And I'm saying that because the name of this piece is The Benevolent Gardener. She told me that you had a love for all things gardening. And this piece uses gardening as a metaphor, to just talk about something that you already that clearly you do, and that is the the innate the innate ability of women to nurture women and to nurture others, but more specifically in this reason to nurture women. So I won't hold you any longer. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. It's called The Benevolent Gardener, and by VBTouray. And I hope that this blesses you, Miss Diane, because my understanding is you are a she woman who shows up in this particular piece. So again, it's called The Benevolent Gardener by VBTouray. I've always had a shelter of arms, a bulwark sufficient enough in nature to weather any storm. Although calamities offered no hint of danger, it was made up of an all encompassing collection of she women. Whether they were biologically inclined or not, carried very little weight, if any. With particular care and expertise, the she women cultivated the nurturer that I've become. The she women's offerings were minimal in the way of money and material items. Nevertheless, I was molded and shaped in this sacred space that they created. One could neither buy nor sell what they bestowed upon me with no suggestion of payment, but I could give it away and do more good with it than any mere token of any kind. Their sacrifices were and are priceless. No manner of material compensation could have been worthy of their labor of love. Their sweat equity had no bottom. They labored tirelessly in this garden, and they did it in the image of a benevolent God. In their wisdom, they anticipated a giving plant. They waited patiently for the optimum moment and time, even to turn the soil. What was the proper composition for planting this necessary plot? Had there been enough rain? Should one add more compost from the pile that boiled in the June heat? Like alchemists, they pored over the soil, sifting and extracting small impurities. A sliver of a stick here, some unrelenting weed there, a glass shard, some small wood shavings, and the such. They spent much time conditioning the soil. As each of them tended, one whispered a bit of encouragement here, another a bit of chastisement there, and then all together they added more of the seething compost for richness and for depth. One gardener came along, and setting her clock by the new moon, she meticulously scooped a heaping, hearty handful of the soil and plunged the seed into the vast and low darkness. Not your garden variety kind of seed, but heirloom seed. Seed that carried in its molecular composition a list of ancient how to's and when to's, what fors and why nots. All along came another gardener. When the first seedlings poked their tiny, tender heads through dirt that had hardened like clay, but with her trowel, she dug deep into the soil, cutting and detangling the seedling from the brawny weeds that had taken residence just inches from the struggling crop. How wiry the weeds were, sidling up next to the seedling. In many instances, they had become completely entangled with this most desirous crop. The benevolent gardeners felt no loyalty to the unwelcome guests, but guarded and preserved the seedling for days to come. One gardener cut down the stand-alone would-be partners. When necessary, that gardener sacrificed seedlings that refused to be separated from the hangers-on. Finally, one gardener submerged her hands into the rich soil and extracted the weeds at the root. "Nah," she whispered into the plot. "Come again, and I'll snatch you again. Send your kinfolk, and I'm ready for them too." She tossed every hairy, engrossing root into the old rusty coffee can and proceeded with God's work. As the seedling grew and gained some strength, it anticipated the gardener's visits. Standing tall and erect, the plant began to wave in the wind, brandishing her newfound strength and beauty. The gardeners, however, paid very little attention, for they were fanning the mockingbirds that were waiting patiently at the edge of the garden for an opportune time to collect the meal they craved. The tender plant bowed her head and waved her seedling branches as if to say, "Look, look, see how strong I've become." The gardeners took no obvious notice. One flailed her arms and shooed the persistent birds into the abyss, and when there was no longer any sign of the mockingbirds, they descended upon the earth and their knees met the familiar place in the soil. With her trowel, one gardener pulled and prodded the dirt that surrounded the budding plant. She carefully and methodically turned the dirt on all sides of the plant, separating the plant's roots from unwanted root. "You're gaining strength," she whispered to the plant. "Soon you'll be too tough for them to worry you. You're doing well. Now, let's stay the course." Day in and day out, the gardeners watered, pruned, protected, and tended the plant until she stood robust and very fragrant. They toiled until she began to produce, to reproduce, until she began to recreate. And what a creation it was! The strong and sturdy plant put forth beautiful and delicate fruit, and her fruit was not only ripe for the plucking, but it was hardy for nourishing. The strong and sturdy plant now stood erect and ceremoniously saluted the gardeners. The benevolent gardeners gazed upon the plant. They marveled at how often it stood erect. At others, it bowed and waved in the morning dew. "How beautiful she has become," one whispered. "Beautiful and statuesque," another said. "How grateful we are that you came to us here." The plant made one last sweeping bow before returning to a stance of salutation. "Well done," the gardeners said. "Well done," they said in unison. "You have weathered the elements and all the manners of encroaching danger. It's your time now," they said. "Take up your tools and put them to the best possible use." With those words, the benevolent gardeners each laid a handful of seeds atop the soil directly at the foot of the beautiful plant. As if the plant had been waiting for a cue, the beautiful plant, with all her strength, heaved her roots up from the soil. She heaved her body onto the earth and lay there prostrate for just a moment. Slowly, she inhaled and she exhaled. Her breath was long but strong. The benevolent gardeners looked on eagerly as she slowly but steadily rose from the earth, and in a few moments she was standing flat foot on what had become her feet. Then, without conscious effort, she dropped to her knees, and with a trowel in hand, she plunged deep into the earth and began to examine the earth for impurities. The veteran gardeners knelt down beside their newest initiate, and they continued their work together. That was The Benevolent Gardner by VBTouray, read to you today for Miss Dianna Johnson. Miss Dianna Johnson, thank you again. From my heart to yours for the work that you have done in our community. We love you, thank you, and wish you many, 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 many more conquests and many more plants for you to nurture. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your celebration.